Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm Joel here with Dad.
And I'm Rick. What's up, Joel? What's up?
Hey, so I want to continue on this parenting thing, concerned about my kids, because there's a lot of people right now that are concerned about your kids. This is not the world I grew up in, it really in the world you grew up in.
Right.
The cool thing about principles from the Bible is they apply in any world.
Exactly.
But we've got some new challenges. And I wanted to talk specifically on this podcast. We talk about stuff I learned from you growing up. And I'll remember this dramatic moment when we came home from school one day, and over in the corner of this was back in the day where TVs were a box, right?
Huge.
The huge box, and we had this ginormous table for it. I remember looking over at the table, and the TV was gone.
No, somebody stole it?
And I thought, what? Well, we lived in Guatemala. I'm like, did somebody steal the TV? I'm like, Dad, where's the TV? And you said, I got rid of it. And that was that. I was like, well, why? He said, it wasn't good for us. And I'm like, okay. And I don't remember there being much discussion later about it. I was kind of like, wow, we don't have a TV anymore. But first of all, let's get your mindset. What was going on there? What was happening in the family? We talked, I think it was on the last episode where we talked about paying attention, or a previous episode where we talked about paying attention to your family. How does that all tie in?
Well, I'm not sure that I'd given that much thought to it or anything. You know, it was just a matter of
instinct.
Yeah. This thing is just driving me crazy, and I know it's not good for us.
What was driving you crazy about it?
Just the fact that it's always on. It's always a distraction. It's always there. There's a little thing called The Stranger. You can probably Google it and look it up on the web. But it talks about how Dad invited this stranger to come live with us, and Mom would get up and leave the room. And anyway, you get at the end of the thing, and I hate to be a spoiler, but you get to the end of it. And this stranger, though none of us were allowed to speak or bad or cuss, this guy would now and then. And every now and then this stranger would tell us all the beautiful things about drinking and smoking, even though we didn't do that in our family, And it turns out at the end, the stranger was the TV, And many of us just have allowed, we allowed television. At that time, it was a big deal. Well, it's still a big deal. Allow television to come in and just run our lives and determine our mindsets. You watch a show and you're thinking about it the next day.
Yeah,
you wake up thinking about it. And I thought, man, if I could just be thinking about the things of the Lord, or, we meditate on it day and night instead of what the Bible says, blessed if you meditate on the word day and night.
So I just tried to find on Netflix or Amazon Prime something about The Stranger, but
it's a poem.
I'm guessing it's not
really a poem.
It's blocked because the algorithm doesn't want you watching something about not watching TV. So yeah, Okay, I looked up poem too. It didn't come up. We'll find it.
Okay. Well, I've got a copy of it. We can post it somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. So you just didn't like the dynamic of what was happening.
Yeah, I just felt like we need to get rid of it.
And honestly, that's the thing I've noticed too is I was walking into church the other day, and Elise wasn't with me. I was at a church I was visiting, and this lady, she turned to her daughter and she goes, I'm going to stop allowing you to watch Disney if you don't stop being so snarky with me. You're learning all this snark to your parents from Disney. And I was like, huh. So I just started watching some of the shows that are generally, and there's this, for the sake of humor, there's a disrespect from the kids to the parents. And honestly, some of it's kind of funny. Yeah. But the parents always kind of a little bit doofuses. The kids are the smart one on the show. And you go, yeah, it's for the sake of TV. But a kid doesn't know that.
He picks up on it. You're influenced by the things you watch and things you listen to. You cannot help it. And I think what had happened to us is we had tried to cut back on TV and tried to cut back. And it never worked. We would set a rule, and within a week it was gone. And so finally I said, okay, this thing, we can't beat it. We're just going to get rid of it.
So it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
TV's still out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Netflix, Prime, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think there's a whole new threat lurking. And there have been great books written about this. My friend Arlene Pelican has written about that with Dr. Gary Chapman. The idea that, man, what's on screens now coming to people is potentially deadly.
Well, part of the safety factor you had when you had the TV is it's there in the living room. Everybody sees it and everybody knows what you're watching, Now you got the screen in your hand.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you can dial to anything you want.
Yeah.
You had a limit as to the number of stations. You may have 120 stations, but there's absolutely no limit to what you can get on your phone. And anybody can get it. And it's just right there for free, You just
And oftentimes your kids understand the tech better than you do.
Oh, yeah.
Like you put safety things on, but it's the kids can get access to it even quicker than you even realize that's a thing.
Yeah, I wonder how many parents know that For example, Google, what's the Chrome, has their incognito where you can search and nothing's recorded in your history. Or do even parents know to check the history of a kid's Google searches or on his phone or anything like that?
I was thinking about the other day, she's playing this little innocuous kids game and somebody starts chatting with her and we didn't even realize it, but we
Yeah.
realized, wait a second, this game for kids just lets any random person start chatting with her. And so we immediately were like, Elise, turn off that chat. It's freaked her out so much she won't touch the iPad, which is kind of a blessing at this point.
Yeah.
But it jolted us because we realized this is a kid's game and that
Yeah.
they're allowing people to interact with her while she's playing a game that we don't know who they are, where they're at, predators.
Yeah.
And I mean, you hear horror stories of kids getting into horrible situations because of that. So that phone is, I mean,
Yeah.
is it, okay, so how do you know when it's time? I guess this is the real question of this podcast. How do you know when it's time to take drastic measures with a situation with your kids where you go, something's got to change and it's got to be radical and it's got to be now? Because sometimes if you take a drastic measure, the kids will swing hard the other way.
Yeah.
And never announce the revolution. That's a classic leadership quip there. That if you're going to do a revolution, don't announce it. Just kind of slowly implement it. Because as soon as you announce the revolution, people are like,
Yeah.
So how do you do that when is the time to take drastic changes and when is the time to go, okay, we got to subtly turn the ship here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's better if you can avoid, if you have to take drastic measures, it's gotten out of hand anyway. And so it's better if you can kind of deal with it while it's small.
I mean, that's a principle for life.
Yeah. But most of us, it's kind of like, it's not worth the pain right now, and so we don't really do anything until the pain of the danger is greater than the pain of just dealing with it. Because we know our kids are going to be upset.
They're going to fight back, push back.
Yeah, whine and complain and grumble, And I think in order to, what would you say, bear the tyranny of their whining and complaining, you need to realize what you're actually doing here. I had a couple parents were telling me, oh yeah, we don't monitor our son's text messages or his Facebook or his Instagram or anything like that because we feel like he deserves some privacy. And they thought that was a mark of good parenting.
Yeah, we're so enlightened.
Yeah. But it was actually a mark of stupidity because they didn't realize what they were actually doing was child abandonment. They were abandoning their son to a dark alley with a bunch of predators in it. And saying, go walk down there. We won't go with you because you deserve your privacy.
That goes back to that verse you said, know well the state of your flock.
Yeah.
As a parent, you're going like, okay, little sheep, I don't want to put any restraints on you. Look, I know there's wolves over there. Just be careful.
Yeah.
No, your job is to protect that thing's life.
Exactly. And that's what you're doing is protecting your child when you're doing that, particularly with the phone. And I'm not talking, okay, so let's say, well, we got something to where he can't chat, nobody else can get in. But what is he putting into his mind that he's going to have to deal with? What kind of perversions and what kind of mentality? I mean, it gets really ugly really fast. And it's, again, I just don't know how much parents even know that, these browsers on your web have secret things. iPhone has a hidden photo file that's automatically there. You can hide your photos in it, and then it's either password protected or face recognition protected that a parent can't even see it. Parent doesn't even know how to get to it.
I did not
let
know
alone
that.
know that it's there. Yeah, and so there's all these things that the kids are aware of. How do I become aware of them? Well, I happen to read when they send you an update. I read what the changes are. Duh. Most of us don't. And you just click past, but you go, oh, there's a hidden file here? Well, what the heck is that? How do I get to that? What does that do? Why? It's, and you can buy apps on the phone where you can hide pictures. Now, the scam is that, this is a place to put your passwords so nobody can get to them. Hide your passwords. But it's made for photos. It automatically goes for uploading photos from your phone. Well, what kind of photos are you going to want to hide?
Yeah.
Well, duh.
So back to this drastic changes thing. I think this is again, one of the powerful things we decided to talk about parenting for a while is because every parenting principle applies in general to life.
It does.
And sometimes in life it tends to happen. I mean, I've seen this in counseling. When do people show up at counseling? When the situation is so bad that it's almost beyond repair. I mean, nothing is beyond repair. I believe God can restore anything. But man, you can make it way harder on yourself.
Yeah.
And so many times because of our busyness and not not realizing our kids are our primary responsibility, taking care of them, nurturing them, releasing them into their freedom at the right time, but holding them back when it's going to threaten them. So many times, because of that, things have gotten so bad, and then by the teen years, it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where it's just, I'm going to say what it is. It's stupid. It's a stupid idea that the best thing you can do is expose your kids to things early on. Your job is to protect the innocence as long as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a stupid, stupid idea. And it seems so educated and like this enlightened idea, but you got to look at the results of it. And I'm looking at the camera because it's so important. You've got to look at the results of this. And I'm seeing we're seeing the results of these blog mommies ideas and things. And I'm getting passionate about this because I'm like, you screwed up your kids, but you had access to truth. But in the name of this secular enlightenment, you lost track of the biblical principles. And anytime you go against a biblical principle, you're not going to like the results. I mean, that's what the proverb says. It says, a wayward child is a disgrace to their parent. I mean, it's so important. And sometimes you will have to take drastic measures, what seem like drastic measures early on, but it's way less drastic measure than having to, let your kid go into prison or into rehab. And they say, well, that's an extreme continuum. Well, every small decision leads to the big things. And I get so passionate about it because I see it's such a foolish, stupid idea that you just kind of let your kids find their own way.
Yeah.
There's an element of that, but that is not until you've built a foundation in them where you've protected their innocence as long as possible. And sometimes you got to take drastic measures to protect their innocence, which means, everybody else has got a phone. You ain't getting one, kid.
Yeah. Or there are other options, like Karis, your sister she's pretty radical on this, and I'm proud of her for being so. So she did feel like the daughter did need a phone. And so she told me there are like these 3 or 4 different out. There's one called Gab, Gabb. Mm-hmm. There's one called Bark, one called Tromi or something like this. Anyway, these are phones that are, guess what? They actually make phone calls. Phones that actually phone.
Or text, yeah.
Yeah, and they can text.
What, can you text without pictures? That's an important
I
thing.
think there's one you can text. And I think one of them, it has like parental settings on it. There are these different things. And from what I understand, the Bark even has an iPad now. And maybe, I guess it's an app actually that you get. So it's an app you can put on the phone that parents can actually control what's going on. And BARK. So anyway, there are tools out there. And if you can't get one of those tools or something, then you may take the phone away. And here's the thing: what happened with the TV? There was some major pushback on it.
I don't remember pushing back, but maybe I just.
Well, I don't remember who the pushback came from. I kind of thought it was the whole family. I felt like I was, I kind of was put 10 cans by the door at night when I go to sleep in case somebody opened the door. I'd hear it. Just anyway.
Yeah.
Danger, danger, Will Roberts. But here's what happened, and here's what you'll see happen too. In fact, I talked with Karis about this, and she said a friend of hers who had taken the son's gaming console away and sold it, and he like freaked out. And she thought, and you feel bad about it. I felt bad about it. This mom felt bad about it, and felt like my kids are never going to love me again. They'll never forgive me. My life is ruined, but I just need to do this. And when we did that, here's what happened. For about 3 days, everybody sat around bored stiff,
Right.
We didn't know what to do, But about 4 days, 5 days, about a week into it, all of a sudden, we found other stuff to do. And that's when Jonathan developed his ability, started his learning how to program computers. And that's what he's doing today. I mean, his whole career and life started right there during that time without TV.
That's interesting because there have been some studies that have shown that they interview kids, particularly college kids, like what do you get more fulfillment from, TV or doing something else? And every one of them, like across the board, it's doing something else. But the TV is the path of least resistance, always. The phone is the path of least resistance.
It's always there.
It's always there. You can just scroll, and you're doom scrolling for 20 minutes, and you're like, where did 20 minutes go? And you're like, why don't I ever have time to write a book, or why don't I ever have time to create anymore? And it's instant, it's quick, it's the dopamine hit that gets you, woo!
It literally is a drug addiction. It literally is dopamine.
Some of the guys that created these phones and apps, they're not even letting their kids use them anymore.
Yeah, exactly, because they know what it does.
Yeah. So drastic measures sometimes, and maybe that's when we need to title this podcast. Sometimes we're going to need to take drastic measures, but if you're paying attention to your flock, ideally, you're not going to have to take drastic measures because along the way, you've been riding the ship a little bit. Yeah,
exactly. And your kids will be more open to it. But if they're not, again, pay the price. Pay the price of them being upset with you and mad at you, and at least give it a month and see what happens, and see if they're not going to be happy about it, but see if it doesn't make a change in their life and they do become happy about it.
Thanks for listening. Please consider sharing this with your friends on the platform of your choice. For more from Joel Malm, visit joelmalm.com. For more from Rick Malm, visit rickmalm.com. Our podcast music was produced by Alex Burleson.